is really good to be here in TEDx. I know that any time that they used to call me to come to public places and speak, some people will start thinking, is that how she's going to be talking? Some people will start laughing because they find my accent to be very funny. But anyway, for the purposes of those that may not understand me today, I'm going to change things a little. I'm going to talk in a different tune. So, my name is Eketi Edima Ette. And I am a storyteller. My journey to storytelling began quite by accident on Tugo. But before I tell you the story about Tugo, let me give you a little bit of a background. So when I was younger, probably 4, 5, 6 years old, whenever we were talking too much or disturbing my parents, they would make us write letters to them. And I hated it because why am I writing letters? I can tell you what I want to tell you. But my parents would make us write letters. And so the more I wrote, the more my writing got better, till my English teachers in school commended my writing. One of them in particular, Mrs. Kitty, would always say to me, Eketi, I enjoy reading your composition pieces because you always write what is different from other people. And so I grew up, got to the university, I had stopped writing. And then, let's get to Tugo. In 2011, I believe, I was out of school and I was bored. I was waiting for law school. And a cousin of mine came to me and said, are you on to go? I said, which one is to go? Said it's like this chatting something. They have chat rooms, you go in and you chat. And because I was coming from the background of High Five and Yahoo Messenger, I wasn't a fan of chatting anymore. I mean, I was still learning how to use Facebook. But one of those days I was really bored. So I got on Tugo, and the first thing that came up was a chat room. I didn't really like chat rooms, but I went in because boredom will make you do things. So I got into the chat room, and there were 3 gentlemen and a lady and myself, and we started talking. But along the line, can't remember what happened, 2 of the gentlemen became very, very abusive. At a point, one of them said something very derogatory about my mother. And I said to him, your mommy. Now, maybe because I said your mommy instead of your mother. So one of the guys sensed that I was a little touche and came, into a private chat and said to me, see, I think you sound like someone that has a good upbringing. So please, you see, that thing is sleeping sometimes. You sound like someone that has a good upbringing, so don't let these 2 people drag you into the gutter. So we started a conversation, and while we were talking, he said to me, are you a writer? And I said, no, I'm not though. He said, but you write like a writer. I said, well, I write some poems and some articles. But I used to post them on Facebook notes. It's nothing serious. So he asked to send me a request. He did. Then he went to Facebook, read the things I had posted there, came back and said to me, Eketi, you are a phenomenal writer. Now, my family and friends over the years had said I was good, but I mean, they love me. They're supposed to say that. But hearing this from a total stranger made me think on one hand, maybe he's right. On the other hand, Nawasha. But he insisted that I was good. And then he asked, do you write fiction? I said, I'm a Christian, so I'm a little conflicted about fiction because it's like lying. I mean, these things didn't happen. But he said to me, if you're a Christian, then you have a perfect example to follow. Jesus was a storyteller, and he told fictional stories to drive home his point to his listeners. At that moment, I had a click in my brain. This boy has a point. And so the next thing he said was, you know what? I'm going to challenge you. You're going to write a story of 1,500 words. And if you write it and post it on Facebook tomorrow, I'm going to give you 1,500 naira recharge card. However, if you don't, you are going to give me 1,500 naira recharge card. Back in those days, I didn't know how to back away from challenges. So I'm like, Homo, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna write this story and shock you. Besides, 1,500 recharge card for a poor graduate was a lot of something. So I got down to my table, got my pen, my paper. I started writing. I filled 2 A4 papers, and I'm like, it has reached 1,000. Then I started counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 51, 52. I'm like 52. Okay, this thing has filled the page. But I kept doing that over and over until I got to 1,700 words. Then I had to edit my story to keep it at 1,500. Then I posted it on Facebook. When I posted it, I left Facebook because I didn't want to read people's comments. I came back hours later, opened my post, and I was blown because there were over 100 comments, and all of them were good. Eketi, this story is so funny, I laughed. Eketi, do you write like this? How come you haven't written more things? Eketi, I didn't know you can write like this. And suddenly, my head began to be bigging. It was bigging and bigging. And then my new friend, Ebuka, came back and said, you should write more. And I started writing more. And there's something that, Facebook accolades do for you. They kind of be increasing your head. So my head was increasing. And I didn't think, I got to that point where I'm like, I'm more talented, I'm more gifted. I don't need any other thing in this world. But my friends kind of forced me to apply for a writer's residency program where we're going to be taught to write better. I went to that program full of arrogance because I'm like, you people should be happy to have me in your program. When I got there, after 3 days, I realized that like Jon Snow, I knew nothing. A few days into the program, one of the facilitators called me aside and said to me, Eketi, when we received entries, all the facilitators unanimously agreed that your story was the best. But I've seen something in you, and that is you think that talent is enough. But I want to tell you, talent is not enough. You need skill. So when he said that, I had another click in my head. Now, I didn't know how to go about getting better, but I had my phone, and my phone became like a magic door. If I wanted to learn how to be better at describing, I accessed courses on my phone. If I had to learn how to build characters properly, I accessed trainings on my phone. So my phone was this open door that let me go into different places. And as I grew, because practice makes progress, it doesn't make perfect, but it makes progress. As I grew, people began to notice. In that time, I was also applying for jobs, but, wasn't getting much. Anyway, we know that there are 4 professions available for the Nigerian child. You have the doctor, you have the lawyer, you have the engineer, and then you have the disgrace to the family. So I had gotten a degree as a lawyer. It was time for me to get my second degree as the disgrace to the family. So I went to my parents. I don't know if anybody here has ever gone to their parents and said, Daddy, Mommy, I don't want to practice law again. You don't want to what? I don't want to practice law again. You say you don't want to what? But because I had gotten to a point where I believed with all my heart that this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to tell stories. I wanted to bring the things that are inside my head to people, to make them laugh, to make them cry, to make them emotional. And so I was determined that I was gonna be that disgrace. But I wasn't much of a good disgrace because over time, as years passed, I had planted my talent as a seed. And then when I added skills to it, like I had been instructed, the skills became roots, like that of a perennial tree that goes deep into the ground. And the deeper that my skills went, the higher my writing grew, like a palm tree. And so, one of those days, but when you've achieved that much, but people are telling you you're really good, but you're not really sure. Then sometime in 2017, there was an event in Uyo, and it was being organized by a lady that I totally admired. I followed her on social media. I was sold out to her. So I went to that event, and I was so pumped to just take a selfie with her. That's all I wanted. And so when the event finished, At the end, I went to her and I said, "Good afternoon, ma. It's such a pleasure to meet you. Oh, thank you so much for speaking. I really enjoyed your session." And she said, "You're Eketi Edima Ette." And I said, "Yes." She said, "I love your post on social media. I follow you. I read everything that you write." I'm like, "Oh, we're gifted, but we're talented." And so she said, "You know what? I really want to work with you on a project. Can you put your number on my phone?" And then she whips out her phone, and I start calling out my number. And then she stops and says, "Why is your number on my phone?" And I say, "Madam, 3 years ago, I applied for a job in your company, and you turned me down." And she said, "Really? But well, look at you today. You have become this excellent person, and now I want to work with you." And for me, that was such a huge validation of my growth. It was an affirmation of all that I had worked hard for. This was me here now. And in time, I started earning 6 figures. People started approaching me and saying, "Oh, we love how you write on social media. We want you to write for our company. We want you to write for our product. And I was lying on my bed, just doing a lot. And so, in the course of that time, I learned so many lessons. I learned, like that Bible verse that says, "Do you see a man who is diligent in his business, or a woman who is excellent at what they do? They will stand before kings and great people." And so my talent opened the door for me because I had added skill. I was able to stand in front of great people. I stood in front of heads of industries. I stood in front of ambassadors. I even stood in front of the British royalty to present my art. And for me, it was such a phenomenal thing. And I learned several lessons, one being that give time. Because you can't wake up and grow in a day. You have to grow over time. I also learned that mastery is a journey. It's not a destination. And so with each passing year, I get better and better. I also learned that practice makes progress, like I said earlier, and diligence is very important. One of the painful lessons I learned, but which worked in my favor, was that, when people tell you, when you love what you do, it does not feel like work. It's a lie. Writing is hard work. And when I came to the realization that writing was hard work, I was faced with the decision, do I leave it and go back to practice of law, or do I continue? Because this now feels like work. But I continued, and that work paid off. Diligence is a very important ingredient in your journey. You can't start and stop. You have to continue and continue. Resilience is also very important because you'll get to that point where you're lonely. I'm going to be honest with you. You get to that point where you are the only one who believes that this thing, you can do it. People will tell you, see, nobody has done this before. I have been told that. In fact, I started a blog in 2011 after discovering my talent, and people said to me, "You're not writing like Linda Ikeji. People will not read this thing. You're just telling stories. No gossip, no drama. Stop writing." And I shut down my blog for a long time. But then I realized that life is very, very funny. The thing you want and people tell you not to do, someday somebody very next to you will do that thing, and you will end up in regret and bitterness. So I went back to blogging. I went back to telling my stories. I became resilient. People told me, writers in Nigeria are poor. You will be hungry. You will come and beg us for money. But look at me today. I'm not begging. So I learned those lessons, and those lessons have helped me over the years. They keep me writing. They keep me practicing. They keep me telling stories. I want to end my talk by quoting one of my favorite quotes by Righteous in the movie 3 Idiots. Righteous said something. He said, "When you pursue excellence, success will chase after you." And I'm telling you this because I have lived it. And so I'm telling you today, pursue excellence, and success, I guarantee you, will chase you hands down. Thank you.